Hello, beautiful soul. This is the Angel Lady, and it is my pleasure to be sharing a beautiful soul with you, Dr. Elena Estanol. And so, hello and welcome to Success and Prosperity Mastery interview series. This beautiful lady is a high performance catalyst and transformational leader who inspires soulful entrepreneurs to unlock their unlimited potential and take courageous action to defy the ordinary and become extraordinary in business and life. Her unique system aligns mind, body, and spirit to manifest her clients' visions. Doesn't that sound awesome? She is a #1 best-selling author, speaker, peak performance psychologist, and intuitive prosperity business mentor who has been up-leveling athletes, speakers, performers who perform, coaches, and purpose-based entrepreneurs. All of a sudden, the angels are coming in so strong they're messing with my mouth. So just bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. She is up-leveling athletes, speakers, performers, coaches, and purpose-based entrepreneurs to become extraordinary beings and legendary leaders for over 16 years. Dr. Elena Estanol, deeply familiar with the ups and downs of life as she has recovered from foreclosure, a vicious eating disorder, illness, and traumatic injuries to her body, she has mastered the art of rising from the ashes and catapulting to the skies. Her unique blueprint integrates her experiential and academic knowledge to empower her clients to conquer their fears, heal their relationships, and build profitable and transformational businesses while gliding into the life of their dreams. Absolutely love it, and I'm already getting chills on my legs, so please forgive me for that little bump there in the middle. Thank you and welcome. You're welcome. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here. Tell us about your journey. I mean, my goodness.
I'm just really honored to be here with you, Terry. Thank you so much. It's I feel and this I feel a little bit like I'm connecting with like soul sisters, long lost soul sisters, and it's just really beautiful to just be in your presence and be here with you.
Well, thank you. Isn't it? It's interesting because this is the first voice to voice, and what I like to say is smile to smile connection. And yet through the emails over the last month or so, it's like we already know each other, even though it's just been email communication, and a soul recognizes another soul, whether we've ever crossed paths in another realm or this one, not this one yet, well, we have now. And yet it's undeniable, the energy.
Absolutely, which is why I'm saying, like, I'm just honored and delighted to be here with you.
Thank you. Please do tell us about your journey. It is incredible.
Yeah. I'm going to just kind of share these little touch points, obviously, because, I can't share all of the pieces, but I have a very distinct memory of me being 6 years of age and walking towards the kitchen. We had like a long hallway towards the kitchen, and I'm hearing my parents, what it seemed like they were arguing, and they were just speaking really heatedly. And so, of course, I just like stopped on my tracks, and I hugged the wall and squatted down because I was way too curious to hear. I didn't want to leave, and I wanted to hear what was going on. And I heard my father really complaining very bitterly about his job and what he was doing, and my mother trying to brainstorm with him ideas and that kind of thing. And I remember that without really understanding what a job was or what was going on for him, that I sort of made this promise to myself. It's like, I will never do anything that I hate. I will always do what I love. And I share this little piece of the story because I think that it's a really important piece of really what attuned me in my journey of constantly reinventing and constantly realigning to the thing that was calling my spirit, and to the thing that was that would bring joy. And that whenever I felt like that drudgery. And then I knew it was time to leave. And I think that that's been a really, really important piece, because in some ways from an early age, I made this contract with myself of,
Right.
I'm not gonna, I am not gonna let the whatever of life keep me stuck in this box where I'm gonna be miserable. And so in some ways, it sort of started a path of being a rebel in some way, right? Because even though I really wanted to please and be liked, and just like probably many other women, um, there was also this piece of having a sense of knowing. I was always a
Mhm.
very intuitive being, but both my parents are physicians, and so I was raised in a very rational home, where chiropractors were quacks. And so me sort of talking about some of my intuitive gifts, and it was sort of like this no. I have a lot of
Mhm.
I sometimes get a lot of guidance in my dreams. And so I would start telling my dad dreams, and then he'd be like, "Are you making this up?" I'm like, "No." "Is this still going on?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so eventually I kind of realized, like, this is not an okay thing to be talking about. This is not an okay thing to be sharing. But
Mhm.
it's certainly something that has been leading my life through doing all kinds of things. And so basically I wanted to make the world a better place. And that was sort of my stated purpose. I want to make the world a better place. I want to bring, you know, and initially it was through dance. I became a ballerina, and I
Mhm.
wanted to bring beauty and happiness and help people really connect to that part and give them an escape. And, so I spent so many years training really hard on becoming a dancer. And of course, somewhere along the lines, I developed a really severe eating disorder, and this people pleasing really was the thing that ended my career, because I had a choreographer that asked me to lift another dancer that was at least, I don't know, I want to say at least like 5, maybe 3 inches taller than me, and at least 20 pounds heavier. But I didn't
Ooh.
feel like I could. And so I just did it. And I broke my back 6 months before graduating with my dance degree. And
Oh my
so,
goodness.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was that was really, it's hard to describe, because like literally I felt like everything, like I saw everything going down the drain really fast,
Right.
and it's like, for people that don't really understand like the what ballet is all about, it's so much training and so much discipline. And I had missed vacations, and I had missed hanging out with my
Mhm.
friends, and I had sacrificed pretty much so many things in my life, because I knew that that was the thing that I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden, it was like gone in an instant. And I kind of felt
Right.
like, oh my gosh, so like, what am I supposed to do now? And you know, so I got to a place where it was really dark, as
Mhm.
you can imagine.
Yes, I mean your whole life, your whole purpose, and
Mhm.
isn't a choreographer part of how to take care of his or her dancers rather than asking them to do something that they know he knew or she knew?
Well, yes and no, actually. I think teachers are more in charge of taking care of their dancers, and choreographers are about creating a masterpiece. And so a lot of times I don't think that they're,
Okay.
though he was very inexperienced, and I think that that was part of it. But of course, it was, I don't really blame anybody else except for myself. Because in some ways I feel like I had that, like my intuition had that thought of like, you can't do that. Like, you shouldn't do that. And I had that. I just didn't listen to it. And so I feel like it's a really important piece of my training and my learning, of being able to start recognizing all of the ways in which my
Okay.
intuition talks to me, and the times when I chose to ignore it or go against whatever the advice was. versus the times that
Okay.
I chose to listen and really, go with that. And so so in some ways I feel like it is all part of the master plan. In the moment, of course, it felt like it was the end of the world,
Of
and
course.
yeah. And so I don't want to say I became suicidal, but I became so depressed that I certainly
Mhm.
um, seriously contemplated suicide. And when I was sort of in that place of like, okay, I'm going to do this, I sort of heard this voice of like, you can do that. It's your choice, which I feel like it's a super important lesson for all of us, like how much everything that we do is choice based, you know?
Right.
And at the same time, I kind of realized I kind of, it wasn't even in the, what I was hearing, but almost like what I sensed of like, are you going to throw your life away over this? Like, is this going to be the thing that
Hmm.
you're going to be throwing your life away? And I am really lucky in that many years back, my mother had given me the book Anne Frank's diary. And,
Oh,
and I think it's a common thing, maybe not. Her thought was that it would be good for a 12-year-old to read the diary of another 12-year-old. Um,
right.
I mean, that was kind of her thinking. But really, what it was is that it attuned me to like the horrors of the Holocaust and what was going on.
Hmm.
And what it did is that it made me obsess about understanding what makes people, like understanding two things: what makes people be so horrible to one another, and number two, what makes people go through some of the most horrific things in life and then survive and thrive. And so, and I share this because it's fascinating how like the things that we're interested and we become obsessed with become part of our contract in some way, right? Like I
Hmm.
decided I want to understand resilience. I want to understand what makes people experience, like go from the depths of despair to doing fantastic, right? And so
Right.
I had read all of the books that I could, and so all of a sudden it dawned on me like, well, here's your chance. Like you're experiencing it now. So, like all through the time that I was reading, I kept wondering, like, what would I do? Would I actually like just allow myself to die? Would I like fight? Would I, like it's hard to imagine like what would do in a situation. But then all of a sudden I realized like this is my thing. This is the thing that I'm
Right.
struggling with. And so what are you gonna choose to do? Like, are you actually gonna like lay down and die? Or are you gonna actually like fight? And so it sort of kind of kicked in me this thing of like, well, if I was going to give my life up, I can also give my life into, like, I could give my life into helping others. I could give my life into healing others. And I understood that I couldn't do that until I healed myself. And so I started this journey of, you
Okay.
know, okay, I need to learn, I need to understand, I need to. And so people often ask me, like, how is it that because I spent 17 years in higher ed. So I have 4 different degrees. And people are like, why are you crazy? And I'm like, yeah, there's a little bit of, I was crazy. But there's been this drive for me to just really learn and understand.
Hmm.
And that's part of the reason why, because I wanted to heal myself. And then I wanted to know and have all the tools that to be able to help and heal others.
I'm really glad that you shared that, and it's so important for others to know. However, they decide to work with what they were given or what's been taken away, which sometimes seems like all of a sudden. And for the work that you're doing and will continue to do, or to refocus and what we do call the course corrections and tweak along the way, it's necessary. I can feel that. It's necessary for you to have all the higher education degrees because it gives you more depth for yourself because you're doing very, 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 very deep level work.
Mm-hmm.
And for you and your path, this is what is and was required of you, not from you, but of you, so that you can not only understand why you didn't listen at those times and why you did, and how to help others see past why they're not listening and taking action. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I am now convinced that every single struggle, drawback, challenge, tragedy that we get to experience is an opportunity for us to really learn and up level who we really are. I tend to have come to look at them as sort of blessings in disguise, because in the moment it feels anything but a blessing. But that if we can really be open to the learning. And the reason why I say this is because I was a really hard-headed, stubborn, like I am really willful. I mean, I am somebody that's known for being like, just, if I can push, I'm going to push. I'm going to like, and so I do aerial dance now, and we'll talk. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But I am just sharing this because basically all of my classmates and teachers are always like, trying to be like, okay, like don't, because I'm somebody that will push, and I've like fallen, and so then they're like, but the reality of it is just kind of recognizing that it wasn't just about pushing, that it was also about learning, like in the moment when stuff is happening, to then being open and receptive to what lessons might be coming. And that, at least for me, because I am so hard-headed and stubborn, I wasn't good. Well, I think about it, like, and I think about, how people talk about, like, I had this one spiritual awakening because this happened and this happened, and I think, boy, I must have been like really hard-headed because I've had that and that and that, like, how many of them did I have to go through? I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, you've had more than one spiritual. I would say, some people say spiritual 2x4. I think yours is like an 8x10. It's like, wow. She's kind of sort of getting it, but we need to whop her again. And then, she didn't quite get it. So it's like, so stop being so hard-headed and willful. It might get easier.
Totally. And so I think that's part of, and so for me, it's kind of just recognizing that, like, I wouldn't be doing any of the stuff that I'm doing if none of those things would have happened. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so we always say, like, okay, I remember at one point going to see a therapist, and the first thing that I said as I sat on the couch was, I'm here because my life hasn't turned out the way that I planned it to turn out,
Yeah. I remember saying that a couple times to Maya, just like, hello? Not quite that calmly, because I was not in a calm moment, but I get it. This is not according to plan.
It's not according to plan. And, there's this great quote. I mean, well, I'm just going to give the essence of the quote because I know that I just butcher quotes. I don't remember them verbatim. But Steve Jobs said something about you never know. It feels like you don't really know where you're going when you're going forward. And it feels confusing and cloudy and you don't really know. And all you can do is trust your heart. Like, allow your heart to guide you and trust your intuition as you're moving forward, even though it doesn't make any sense. And he said, you can connect the dots when you look backwards. And when you look back, you will see how everything is connected and interconnected. So I think about this thing that happened basically attuned me to then really start researching, because I think that that's the only time when we're motivated is when we're in pain, right? It's like, okay, well, now there's a problem I need to solve. So, right. And I think that I wasn't, I'm just like anybody else, right? Like, I was motivated because I had a thing that I needed to solve. And so that's what really attuned me to really learning everything I could about, the body and kinesiology and peak performance and psychology and all of these things. And then, I established this very, very successful integrative wellness practice, and, had several therapists and all this stuff, and started having people coming to me and asking me, like, how have you done that? Like, teach me. I want to know, like, how is it that you've actually created what you've created? And I was kind of like, I don't really know, like, if that's really the thing that I need to do. I was kind of like, and then basically like 5 years ago, I like had another thing where I was like running out of my house and in a hurry and busy with all the stuff, and I fell and I broke my leg. And yeah, it was like a compound fracture, complete dislocation. I needed emergency surgery that day. And I remember getting to the hospital and telling the doctor they were wanting to give me morphine. And I was like, hold on, like, I just need to cancel my clients and blah, blah. And he looked at me like, he's like, can you like, and I said, and can you put me back together so I can be back in the office this afternoon? And he like looked at me like, there's something wrong with you besides the broken leg.
Yeah, he's probably never ever seen anybody else like that ever in his whole life. Right. He was probably saying, oh my Lord, here's another one.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
And Terry, so I share this partly because that was my most recent and also my strongest, because that developed a whole bunch of other complications that actually threatened to amputate one of my legs, which then of course was like, super, super, super scary. And
right.
And I would say that was kind of the thing that really brought me down to my knees, like literally like pulled the rug from underneath me and like really brought me down to my knees. And while I had been intuitive and all this stuff, like that was the thing that made me just completely break open, because I spent basically 3 years completely disabled, where I couldn't even stand. I couldn't even stand to take a shower. I couldn't, so I went from being like this super body, I could do all kinds of things, to all of a sudden, I can't stand to take a shower. I can't. Right. Which then threatened a whole bunch of my identity as a peak performance and a high performance psychologist and all the stuff, because people that came to me are like super high level, and then all of a sudden, like, I can't even walk. And, like there's all this bullshit going on, basically.
You just say it.
Because we think it's about us, and I really feel like it was like such a big lesson, like that we are so worried and we think it's about us. And it was during that time that I really got this very clear calling of, you have a lot of knowledge and you have a lot of wisdom, and you need to be sharing it, and you need to be empowering other healers. And the way that I see healers is like people that come into the world with a mission to make it better and to heal it in whatever way that is, not just, I think that we think of healers just as energy healers or spiritual, but I think of anybody that is really doing work that is here to empower and help and heal the world, right? And it was like, you have all this knowledge and all of this experience, and you are hoarding it, and you are not sharing it, and you need to be sharing it, and you need to go broad, and you need to reach as many people as you can. And I was terrified, because it meant being visible. Like, I wouldn't be able to do any of the stuff that I am doing right now. And again, I was like, well, I can't do this, me. And through the process of really opening up, to being like, okay, what is this about? Like, clearly I'm not healing because there's something, so I had to go through this journey of like, from the physical to the emotional to the spiritual, and kind of looking at all of those pieces and realizing that I was actually being shown, like, you don't want to be visible? Here you go. This is what it feels like to be invisible.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Because I really understood how, like, pretty much everybody that has a disability are invisible. We don't see them. We don't, and it was like, you don't want to do it? Here you go. You can stay invisible and you'll stay ill. Or you can actually step into your purpose and share what you are here to share and do what you're here to do and get visible and heal.
Any one of those things that you've shared, and it's a good thing you went right past the line to soft and graceful and all of those things. And being a dancer, you absolutely embody that. And I'm, cracking a smile, but it's so important to just take a moment and allow everything that you shared with us to just really land. Any one of those things could have and almost did and might have stopped others. And yet, because of everything that you were experiencing, and this has come up now twice since you've shared some of your very deep stories, and thank you for being so open, transparent, and vulnerable. This is just thank you.
Thank you.
More than likely, you had been receiving little hints, and it was, okay, I'll get to it. Okay, I'll get to it. Okay, I heard you, and you kept right on going.
Yep.
So it was like, okay, she needs the 8x10 because otherwise she's not going to stop, because things are going well and she loves what she's doing, but she's not hearing the next part of it. She's not seeing the next part of it. Okay, now you've got this integrative center, and so we want you to do other things, and we're sending people to you so you can help teach them. And you go, yeah, okay, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, so I'm just going to keep on going over here. Wrong. So you mentioned Steve Jobs, and I love this part of it. You don't really know where you're going. Trust your heart. And I just paraphrased what you shared. How have you been? You shared some of that, but in those moments, how do you help others to do that? Because it's frightening. We're all told, most of us, and taught how to control and manage every part of our life. And so when you go into that flow or try to, there's nothing there concrete. And so how do you get into faith and trust and follow your heart when you don't know what the next step is, until all of a sudden, boop, there it is? I mean, that's not what we're taught to do.
No. And I think that's one of the first pieces that I do. I have created a blueprint, which I have a little download and a free mini course that goes along with it. And I'm happy to give you that for people that want to access it. And there's basically 6 steps to it. And I talk a lot about learning, and this in some ways to me, because a lot of times people think about high performance and peak performance as like the idea of pushing.
Right.
And the reality of it is that what it is actually about getting into the flow. And
nice.
It's about, when we think about high performance and peak performance, it's actually about the flow. It's actually about getting into that blissful moment where everything just works together and feels effortless and just glides, And so I don't think that we have been really trained to think about it from that perspective. And one of the things that I teach is that you cannot guarantee it and you cannot control it, because the moment that you do, or the moment that you try, you end it, right? But you can learn and implement strategies to enhance the chances that that the flow will happen, right? So part of flow is an altered state of consciousness in which there is relaxed focus and attention on what you're doing. Right? And where you feel like you are meeting the challenge exactly like a wave, right? Like you're riding it
Yep.
together. The challenge is not higher than your abilities, and your abilities aren't higher than the challenge, where you might be bored or. So this is kind of like that where we just feel like we're being challenged, but we're like meeting it and we're going with it, right? And so one of the pieces and one of the first pieces that I teach is I talk a lot about managing our energetic beings because we are energy beings. And that the first step is actually learning to manage our spiritual energy. And that is what I call intensity. Lots of people from the peak performance and high performance talk about motivation, and they have all this stuff about motivation. I actually have a slightly different slant on this. I think that motivation is the thing that we need when we're doing stuff that we don't like. And I'm going to say that motivation is what we need when we're doing stuff that we don't like. And that we don't really need motivation, what we need is inspiration. And inspiration to me comes from the Latin, and it means in spirit. And inspiration is really the thing that happens when we are totally and fully aligned with our purpose and our soul calling. And we feel like energized. So we feel like we're like plugged into this infinite source, which we are, right? Of like creativity and excitement, and that's how that is the first step of getting into flow. And so as part of that training, people that actually work with me on a deeper level or join our course, I have a very specific way to teach them how to start attuning to their own intuition and how to listen to their own intuitive guidance, so that we stop trying to be like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What is that person doing? What's that person doing? Oh my gosh, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should go do that, and we stop all that bullshit and we start really like coming back to us and listening to the best and most reliable source of wisdom that is existing within ourselves. And I think that when you have that, then you can move forward and you can have that trust, because it is trust, it's faith.
Yes.
And, and I can tell you that I've had many instances when I'm doing things and I tell people, and I get this, and you probably will have had this experience yourself, Terry, where I'll tell people something that I'm doing and they'll look at me like, it's this look of, I don't know if you're like being really naive or you're being really stupid or really courageous, or you just completely lost your mind. But I'm just going to be like, oh,
that's nice, dear.
That's nice. Yes.
A couple of times, yes. You're doing what? Okay, that's nice. So my journal gets most of my most creative ideas, and maybe 2 or 3 people that I absolutely trust, whether they understand it or not, but they get it, and they can feel the energy. And it's not that I'm looking for yes people. It's not that, oh, that's nice. It's like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then you get to deal with, well, maybe I am off my rocker this time, and that's where when with my clients and friends, I say, you keep it very sacred, because unless someone totally supports you unconditionally, and I'm not saying they come back 9 months later and say, well, I knew that wasn't going to work. That's not unconditional. That's not unconditional. And only do you have your own stuff to work through. You get to work through the stuff they put on top of you because you were silly enough to ask. It's like, stop it. Stop.
Totally. So you're familiar with it, and so, but I think that, like you said, you need to be surrounded by people that are going to be supporting you and holding your back. And in some ways, I think that was the reason why I decided to start masterminds and hold masterminds, because I feel like without the support of a community that really believes in you and can really see your vision and trust you, most of us will not fulfill our purpose. Most of us will stop shy of really unlocking that full potential because of
Yes.
fear. All kinds of things that will come rushing through. And I think that that's an important piece for all of us to know. It's like everything that we are called to do, that it's worth doing, is going to be feeling fucking scary. Like I think that a lot of times some spiritual teachers I've heard talk about intuition and talking about like, well, it's the right answer if it feels good, and it's the wrong answer if it feels bad, or and I just don't believe in that. I feel like a lot of times the great decisions, the things that are actually going to stretch you, and the things that you are meant to be doing are going to feel scary. And
Right.
that is the thing that you need to be listening to, along with like, how does the energy feel even in the scary part, to know that that's the right thing, even though you might feel like you're not totally prepared to do it.
Which is very different than a no guidance. I mean, it's incredibly different. There's the beyond your comfort zone, which I call the stay stuck zone. It was what you're talking and speaking to now, because it's scary doesn't make it wrong.
Right.
It actually, that is what's pulling you forward in the moment. And if a lot of spiritual people say, well, I need to take that into meditation. It's like, that's a cop out. Stop it. You either know it in the moment or you don't.
Right.
So just own up to it. And it's like, I'm not ready to do this is much better than, well, can I have 2 days to meditate on it? Sure, honey, go right ahead. You're going to meditate yourself right out of it.
Totally. And I think it's usually fear. And I agree, and when I've talked to people that are most aligned and most spiritual, they've told me the same thing. I've realized that, even as a consumer, I'm not a typical consumer, like I will, well, because I will listen to somebody, for instance, right? Like I will like listen to a video or listen to their webinar or whatever, and I will know like right away if that's the thing that I need to do or not. Like it is very simple. I know I need to do this, and now I need to figure out how I'm going to do it, or no. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's pretty much it, and so kind of going with what you said, this idea of like, well, I need to pray and meditate, and it's like, okay, like you're going to go talk to everybody else that and then everybody's going to talk you out of it. The answer is actually already inside of you, and most of the time it's when it feels uncomfortable and when it feels like that's actually the thing that you need to be like, do it.
You need to figure out how to do it, because yes, absolutely. And just a few days ago, I caught myself. It's like, well,
hey, we're human, right?
Absolutely. And I'm willing to admit I go through this. And it's like, well, it's not because I don't have the money. Well, I'm already doing all these other things. And then I heard something and I went click and I go, got it. And I jumped on that opportunity. I mean, hook, line, and floating. I'm not going to say sinker, floating. And it actually felt so much better. And I felt so much calmer than the previous couple days, where it's like, well, I said no, but la, la, la. And I was making up story in my own head. So, you do that when we up level. Do you find that when you go to the next level up that you're working with some of the same things, maybe to a lesser degree, maybe to a higher degree, depending upon what the it is?
I think that's why I love doing the work that I do, because fears and blocks are going to come up for every single one of us, regardless of how successful or how many tools we have. Every time that we are up leveling and we are reaching and trying to do something new. Like, every time that you're going to do something new, every time that you're going to, that's all going to be happening and it's going to come up. And it can come up, there's something new I had a client said like, well, we all have the things that we struggle. And absolutely, it's not about, for somebody, it might be like a huge reach to make a video, right? And for somebody
Yes.
else, that's like not a big deal, but the huge reach is to like plan a live event, right? Or the next reach would be to, do you see what I'm saying? And so we're all evolving in our path, and there's always this next step,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's usually the step that we are avoiding. And I call it
Right.
circling the drain, because we like make all kinds of excuses. We procrastinate. We like, you know, decide that there's other things. We just like circle the drain. Like we make all kinds of excuses that we think are good excuses, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
happening, And
Absolutely.
to go back a little bit to this quote, it to me it's fascinating because again, as you're taking these steps, it feels scary. But I think that the more that you listen to your intuition, the more you start learning the value of it. So
Okay.
one of the exercises that I do is I have people actually just go back through their life and say, when are the times that you heard some guidance and you ignored it? Right. And I talk about like,
Mhm.
I totally heard it. Like, it was like, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. And I was like, oh, but I blah, 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 blah. Like we rationalize it and then we do
Yes.
it. And most of the time for everybody, it's like every time that they heard guidance that they didn't follow through, the outcome was not a positive outcome.
Yes.
So it's not like just like trust me, it's like no, don't take my word, like I want you to find your own answers, right? But it's
Uh-huh.
like let's look at your life, when have you heard it and what has happened, and then when have you heard it and actually paid attention to it, and then what happened then, you know because I think that when we start really recognizing that, it all of a sudden opens up, and all of a sudden you are able to kind of take that step into what feels like the abyss, that you don't know,
Right.
into the unknown. But it's like, you're like, well, but other times that I've done this, it's worked. So even if everybody else
Mm-hmm.
thinks I'm crazy, like I'm willing to take this step. I'm willing to have that level of trust, you know, and to know that a lot of times we are not. One of my clients is like, well, but I want to know. And I'm like, I get it. We all do. Let me pull out my magic ball. I just joke. I don't have a magic ball. But I said, but what if the conversation over here is, I will reveal the next step to you after you've taken that step.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting here, it's like, I want the whole blueprint. I'm not doing anything until I have the whole blueprint,
And you
right?
know what? If you have the whole blueprint, you won't do anything because had I known 6.5 years ago, almost 7, when I abruptly was with the 8x10, not the 2x4, which is another story for another time,
I would love to
all
hear.
of a sudden went from fully employed and doing this part-time to, okay, now there's no safety net. Had I known then that I would be doing something like this 6.5 years ago, I would have said, oh, hell no. Shut the door, nailed it shut, taped it, and closed all the windows and said, not doing it. So even though we
Absolutely.
think we want to know, like you said, it's sometimes better that we don't, because we can often short circuit
Totally.
and screw it up.
Totally. Totally. And so if we can only take one step, and keep trusting that way, when you
Hmm.
get to be old enough, like me,
Yeah, you're so whatever.
well, in some ways, like I am at this point old enough that I'm able to look back and then
Okay.
see exactly how um, all of these dots connect. Because
Right.
now I am, I am doing aerial dance and I'm performing as an aerial dancer, and I am actually speaking about, you know, high performance and overcoming, right? And not letting anything get in the way of the thing that you need to do. And in some ways demonstrating it. And I know that part of my path is to be on stage, talking and
Right.
performing. And when I look back at my life, I'm like, all of it was preparing me. Back then I was like, why would you give me all these gifts and then take it all away? Like, I don't get it. Like, why is this happening? Do you see what I'm saying? And
Yes.
it was like, well, I needed to stop to develop these other gifts, and now I can
Hmm.
see, like, it's not about me either. We worry so much about, like, oh, like, what are people? And now I'm like, I need to be doing it because I have a message that people need to hear. And I
Yes.
am simply the vehicle, and I am simply the example, and I can show them and I can teach them. But it's not really about me. Like, I am just one little soldier um, in a whole army of light workers.
I get it. I get it. And I can see that we could talk for another several hours easily and keep everyone just really enraptured because it's incredibly powerful. And again, I thank you so much for just really being so open about your own journey and how, because of everything, you've not only come through it, but now you're able to use it to help others. So would you please kindly tell us how our viewers can contact you, because we're just about done for today.
Sure, no problem. So I'm gonna give you two websites, and so my website is intuitivebusinessmastery.com. It's all one word, intuitivebusinessmastery.com. And then I also want to give you the URL for this. It's a very comprehensive guide, and seven video classes that actually kind of talk about these 6 steps that I mentioned. I only mentioned the first one, and you can download it for free and kind of follow along and that kind of thing. So it's tinyurl.com. So that's easy, tinyurl.com / and
Mhm.
then it's quantum dash leap dash results. So the guide
Quantum
is
dash quantum
leap
dash leap dash resolve
results.
results. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, results with an S at the end. hmm
Thank
So
you.
it's called basically like quantum leap your results, focus and productivity practices for peak performance in our evolving world. And part of it is just kind of recognizing the evolution of our world and how we need to sort of start evolving ourselves and upgrading ourselves to match where we're heading.
Well, you've certainly done that, and there's no doubt you'll continue to do that. Hopefully, less traumatic.
Yes, I am listening a lot better now. I've become a better
Good.
listener.
Good. So again, ladies and gentlemen, that is intuitivebusinessmastery.com and tinyurl.com / quantum leap results plural.com. And that is how you can connect with this beautiful lady. And we will have, of course, the content upgrade, which is free. You do need to register or sign up for that, but it will have all the key points and the highlights. So in case you've missed a little bit of something, this was very, very powerful. Thank you so much,
Sure.
beautiful lady, Dr. Elena Estanol.
Can I
Thank you
just say
so
one
much.
thing? The
Yes,
last link doesn't have a .com. It's tinyurl.com, and then it just says quantum dash leap dash results, and that's it.
thank you.
So that they actually
I'm
get to the right
.comming all
place.
over the place. Yes, thank you, because that's very important. We would have like,
Yes.
where was that? So thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, of
And
course.
thank you for being here, beautiful
It was
lady.
such a pleasure to share with you, Marie, Terry, and with your listeners. Thank you.
You're welcome.